What's up, everybody? This is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are watching Ranger Wrap Up. Peace!
Welcome, you guys. It is Saturday, and we got the whole crew here. Thank you guys so much for joining us on your Saturday. Like I say, every single Saturday, you could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with us, and
we appreciate it.
I am joined by my two co-hosts this weekend. First off, Daniel, you do your whole spiel. Let's hear it.
I'm going to do a short one. Hi, it's your boy. It's me. That's right. Battlestar Galactica, a.k.a. BSG. That's right. Also, I am the intergalactic instigator, the purveyor of petty, Actually, leave it at there.
Purveyor of petty.
That's it for
and,
me.
Our fearless leader is back. Joe, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, man?
I am great. It's finally good to be back. It's been a busy last few months, but here we are winding down the season finale of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, which is going to be next week, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. But I'm really ready to dive into the comic stuff. And we should say that we do have some unfortunate news. Actress from Ryu Soldier, Mana Kinjo, passed away at the young age of 24, which is really, really sad. That article's up on our website at theilluminerdi.com, but rest in peace. Oh man, so sorry guys. This is my
what?
You know what? This is like rookie maneuver by me, right? I should have known better.
What's going on?
Should have known better. But no, the audio's good. But yeah, rest in peace. I mean, it's such a sad story.
Yeah.
That happened. And
at such a young age too. I mean, like, I feel like that we're just in our prime at that age where, God, that sucks. Has there been any
terrible?
Did they say what the cause was, or they don't know yet?
I think it's still being investigated. I don't personally know. I haven't dove into that story that much. I know that Bryce wrote the story.
Yeah. If anybody knows in the chat, let us know.
I don't have...
If anybody knows what actually happened, because that really sucks. So how are you guys doing this week? I mean, things been pretty slow in the Power Ranger world, but I mean, Christmas is ramping up. Are you guys getting ready for the holiday season?
I mean, yeah. Look, it has been slow a little bit in the Power Ranger world, but like we did those. Jezzer knows this. We've been working with the Power Rangers Beast Morphers cast a little bit. And we have something cool next week to show you guys for that. But yeah, man, Power Rangers, I love it. I've just been kind of like looking at more and more of these Lightning Collection figures. I know a lot of people are starting to get their battle packs. Or is that what their action packs?
The versus packs, yeah.
The versus packs, yeah. A lot of people have been getting those in. Those look great. The Andros head sculpt looks a lot better in person than I think it did when we saw the promo stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah. We should try to get one for Chris and have him play with himself for a little bit, since he's used to doing that anyway.
That's the best way to say
it. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Daniel, how have you been? How's everything been with you, man?
Pretty good, pretty chill. My birthday's coming up. Shockingly, I didn't even remember it. Besides that, I mean, life has been very, very chill. Working.
Yep. It's been very fun. I think that. Despite how shitty the world is, going right now, I feel like everybody's like trying to emphasize the Christmas spirit, especially around my neighborhood. Everybody's putting up Christmas lights and trying to turn it around this holiday season. It's kind of sucks. Joe, I've seen you've been doing a lot of junkets. One of the ones I watched was the one you did with Kat Graham. She is so much fun. I watched that movie, that Christmas drop movie. That was a pretty good movie.
You know what? It's so funny you say that, Jezzer, because immediately when I first started watching that movie, I immediately thought of you, mainly because of your job. Yeah. I know that probably has nothing to do with your job.
Actually, it kind of does. We do have a set up a lot of pallets that get delivered to like the San Nicolas Island to people that live out there. So it's not to the extent of like keeping people alive, but it's keeping people fed and getting them the products they need. We got a super chat from the Blur. Yeah. It's $2.99. He says there's a winter storm brewing, so here I am. That's great, man. At least you're gonna get some snow. I guess you get to stay home and enjoy the cold.
Yeah. The biggest thing is at least you can stay home. At least you're safe.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a winter storm. You could be out there busy doing something, and now you're stuck in the storm. So that's good.
Yo, let me tell you guys a story about that. I know that a lot of people tuned in for Power Rangers, and we're going to be talking about Power Rangers, I promise you. But this is us catching up a little bit. But let me tell you guys, I was in Big Bear about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when it was. But we went up to this place called Magic Mountain, which is essentially it's not the Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's their just amusement park for the mountain, and it was crazy. Social distancing was not practiced. Nobody wore masks, and they tried to like gather us even closer together in a line. They were like, no, move closer together. And we're like, what is going on? And I know that I live in Southern California, and this did not feel like California. And I hate that my light's going in and out. Sorry. I'm sure that's an auto setting I can fix later. But yeah, it was the worst. Like, I don't know how, but for the most part, it was pretty cool going up there. I love going up to Big Bear.
I spent a lot of, we were talking about going and doing a comic book episode for today's wrap up. So I spent hours this week reading comics, and I think I left off right after. I didn't even read the was it Beyond the Grid, the one where they had those Solar Rangers. I skipped that one, and really going into these comics that I reread this week, didn't need it at all. So I'm fine with that.
No.
Well, I mean, the Solar Rangers do pop up one other time, but it almost feels like they're shoehorned in a little bit. Yeah. We'll get into the story of everything. So I think it's going to be quite interesting and fascinating with our discussion about the comic book world, because it's something we haven't touched on in quite a while.
Which comic do you guys want to touch on first? There's multiple ones going on. Props to Boom Studios for making all these random stories and making them each interesting in their own way. Which one do you guys feel very excited to talk about first?
Well, for me, I know I'm interested in getting into what is literally happening right now, but we have to talk about what built up to it. And I would just say that I wouldn't say that it's random stories. Every one was literally expertly kind of told and woven to give us what we have now. And I'm digging every bit of it. Seeing how things are lining up is big for me. So ultimately, I say let's start off with talking about what's happening with the Omega Rangers.
Ooh, the Omega Rangers, probably my favorite out of all the main comics, because they just got an interesting story. Daniel, why don't you start off? What would you like about the comics, the series so far? I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff to wrap up with what's going on, but what did you enjoy about it?
So, all right, with the Omega Rangers right now, I think the thing that was big, they are dealing with pretty much the mainframe or the construction of what is the Morphin grid. That seems to be what we keep running into with them. Right now, they just deal or tangle with an Imperial. But before that, I mean, we had them dealing with, what was I forgot what the name of it is. But it's some other powerful kind of thing that's been.
Are you talking about Vox and the what are they called? The Anointed, or the Empowered?
Yeah.
So it's all they keep dealing with is
Garrison Vox, I believe.
Is it?
Garrison Vox was the main villain that he had the empowered thing that they were doing in the original series there.
So it's just interesting because what they're dealing with are the things that we never really got to address. So we're getting a lot more info concerning what's happening with just the mythos of the Morphin grid itself. So they keep giving us more information just over and over and over again. They're fighting characters that are almost like gods. And it's it kind of makes sense with the Omega Rangers and their power set being as strong as they are. So it's great to see. And seeing this team every once in a while showing back up in Earth. And they're just getting little tidbits of what's happening on Earth. And they're like, wait, what? So that's affecting the timeline, right? What's happening?
I do enjoy it.
You have and then they're like, oh, yeah, we have a Green Ranger. Wait, what? how do you have that? And they're like, all right, we got to go. And it's like they keep dealing with more and more and more. And the character development for characters that have already been established.
Yes.
And for us to get even more insight on every one of them is one of the dopest things you can do. And it's like I really get and understand what's happening here with the Omega Rangers versus the Power Rangers at the moment. But what's happening with Power
Let me
Rangers
pause you for a
is
second. We got
still-
a super chat from the Blur. Sorry. Love the chat, by the way. Rocky and Jason. Yep, like Daniel was saying, Rocky and Jason's amazing.
Dude, I love that, the whole Rocky and Jason thing. They have a moment where they go just conversing about the role of the Red Ranger. And from what we all understood the role of the Red Ranger to be. And Rocky actually just says it, where he says, well, you know, the Red Ranger is the leader. And how do I feel about that, knowing that we have this Green Ranger now that's showing up, et cetera, knowing that he has more power, automatically it's kind of like, well, he's going to be the new leader. But if something happens and we have some kind of role reversal or some change, all of a sudden Rocky may have to step back up and be the leader. And it's something that's interesting because Rocky never really got the chance to be a leader. Rocky shows up and boom, somebody else was there. So somebody else was taking over, somebody else was running it, and Rocky was like, all right, well, I guess I'm just here. So seeing Rocky have to step up and him admitting that he's anxious about it, he's worried about it, and like, I don't know if I can actually do it. That's one of the dopest things that you can hear a Ranger say. Admit that, you know what, hey, I have a little bit of imposter syndrome where they may say, I'm not cut out for this. And it's like, that's a worry I would have definitely had, especially in Rocky's shoes. So for him to be able to say it, it's
and
dope.
rightfully so, because I mean, like I've always said, Raku is like when he took over the Red Ranger role, he's like, oh man, Rocky, the Red Ranger is like a little bitch now. Fucking sucks that, you know, when we had Jason, he's such a cool Red Ranger, such a badass, and then Rocky is just like an extension of, he's just like another Ranger. He's not even like the coolest of the new people that came in. Like Adam definitely like, you know, came up as far as like he was probably the most the diamond in the rough as far as what we got out of that team that they brought together. One thing that I did enjoy is like they kind of changed up Tommy's role a little bit. He's more like in this series he seems very sure of himself and just like a natural born leader, but here they kind of highlight, oh, well, you know, he under his leadership, there's a lot of failures as far as fight goes, and he kind of looks to Jason and like, man, I don't know if I was ready for that. But I mean, knowing what really happened on the show, like, oh, it wasn't really a choice that they had to do. It was more of a, oh, their hands were pushed. That's the hand that they're dealt with. The other three leaving with contract negotiation. So like seeing this play out how it did, I think it's really cool to see what Ryan Parrott could do with the situation and the gap that those Rangers left.
And this is also something that we've always wanted from the show perspective of what happened to those three when they left Earth, like or when they left to the peace conference. And I think this is a great way to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. Now, you're right, Jezzer. The character development, especially with the three coming in, has been phenomenal. And we're getting a lot more elements of Rocky. We're seeing that shyness in Adam, and we're seeing this assertiveness in Aisha, which we hadn't really seen established in the show. It seems like it's taking the characters a little bit more seriously. The Omega Rangers, I also agree. I love the fact that we're getting so much with their adventures and what they're doing. And I think that that's so cool that we're getting to explore that a little bit and seeing why Jason, even though Jason was really only in season 1 of Mighty Morphin and then Zeo, but we're getting to see why he is this legendary Ranger that he's supposed to be. And I beg to say that this is a great departure from what that original series is. But the one thing I don't like about the Omega Rangers, I know that there has to be something to bring it down, right? But I don't like the Zords. I really don't. I think the Zords don't look great.
You know what they remind me of?
That's my biggest.
You know what they remind me of? Do you remember what is it? Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie? The the revamped Sentinels that they had. That's what they remind me of. They're like these tall, lanky, looking. I don't like the design. I felt like it was kind of lazy, and if they didn't have Zords, I would have been fine with it. But they tried to shoe in some Zord battles in there. But one thing I did enjoy, and I hope that we see more of him, is Dane's character. I felt like he's so menacing, and he's such a great character to not only like give the Power Rangers someone to go up against, but also to expand the universe and kind of like touch on maybe that's Doggy Kruger's kind, and maybe seeing more of it. I like that. I like the new characters that they're bringing in, especially what's her name, Kira. What's the Blue Ranger's name? Kira or something like that. I can't even remember her name. Kaya. Yeah, that was also a fun storyline that they had. Brewing for her. Like I wasn't really accepting of her as like a Power Ranger. I was like, kind of feels out of place. And then the arc that we saw for her kind of really like paid off towards the end.
Yeah, it did. I mean, they were quick to be able to dispatch her. I think they knew what they were doing, and I think they kind of realized they hung on to her longer than they should have.
Yeah.
And so when they were able to remove her, they were like, it has to count for something. Just like the super chats have to count for something.
Go ahead and read that one, Daniel.
And we got one right now. We got one right now from the Blur, and it says, it is like you guys said last week. Omegas are like college adults, and MMPR, the high school kids, and the different issues each team dealt with. So yeah, it's we're getting a little bit more substance with the Omega Rangers. That is true, and we're still dealing with some teen angst with MMPR.
Yeah.
So that's where we're kind of running between the two, and I still stand by that statement. Yes, I do agree. The Zords are where we fall short when it comes to the Omega Rangers. They could be designed better. I really think they should be designed better because they are the powerhouses. They should just have cooler Zords. But the frequency in which we'll even see the Zords, or even the frequency in which we do, makes it where it's like, well, I can see why they were just designed that way, quick, to the point, and let's get them in and get them out. Because we don't really see them too much. We really deal with the Omega Rangers on the ground, boots to the ground, dealing with things. Like they just dealt with a whole entire planet and tried to save it. And most of it was really with the Omega Rangers and not with their Zords. So
let's talk about. Go ahead,
I really enjoyed also the interaction that Jason had with Zordon and how that whole dynamic is changing. I don't know if it's. I feel like with the current team, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they're kind of under the guise of, just following what Zordon is telling us to do. And with the Omega Rangers, they've seen like a whole different, have a new different outlook on their responsibilities and what they're tasked to do. So when they go back to their former leaders in Zordon, it's natural for them to want to question things. It's kind of like when a young adult is like becoming an adult and going back home and just questioning all the things that they thought that their parents wanted them to do, and seeing that it's not necessarily the whole truth.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
Another thing that I like about this exploring the Omega Rangers is that rebellion that Jason has from Zordon. I know we're going to be talking a little bit about the Power Ranger issue #1. So if you haven't read Power Rangers #1, go back and read it. It came out a month ago. Issue #2 is right on the horizon. But also, and this is going to be a big spoiler alert here. So I'm going to forewarn you, if you have not read Power Rangers #1, please turn this off and go back to it. But I do want to talk about Draken joining the team. Lord Draken joining the team is a little bit of a curveball. And I think that a lot of people speculated that he was going to be the new Green Ranger. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But let's talk about Draken joining this version of the team. What are your takeaways from that? And do you like that direction of having Draken on the team?
Yeah, what it kind of gives me, the vibe that it gives me is kind of like... when Thor and Loki started working together. Like he's that type of character now, where he's a little damaged, a little like not his menacing self that he is. He feels more like a defeated villain, and back against the wall, and he's trying to like make the best of his situation. And I think that's where he is right now. And I feel like the Power Rangers need him for whatever this new adversary they're gonna have to go up against. So it's that gives me that vibe of the Thor and Loki having to work together for to go up against a greater evil.
I agree.
Interestingly enough, though, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of bringing Draken back and using him in this manner, mainly because I feel that when we went to the world of the coinless in that little mini-series we had, I think the universe in the coinless got a little diluted, and I feel that like it took a little bit of its mystery behind it once you kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it and have the Ranger Slayer in charge. I feel like that is a little too convenient for me. It's a world that I was looking forward to going back to exploring, but now I felt like, I don't need to go back to the coinless anymore. I don't need to go back to that world at all. It's all kind of wrapped up the way that it is. But having Draken join the team, I'm a little mixed on. I'm curious to see how they're going to use him. And I hope it's not just to shoehorn in another Ranger just to do it. Like if we get a white Omega Ranger or a green Omega Ranger, which I can easily see coming. I don't know how I feel about that. I felt like Draken was their version of like that disaster level villain, and I feel like it kind of emasculates him a little bit by putting him on the team with these other three Rangers.
Very true. But the thing is, a fractured alliance is something that you definitely need to see and kind of weigh out what happens and pretty much test their mettle. Because when it comes to heroes, there always has to be a moment where they have to kind of question who they are, what they have learned, and what they will become. And this is what we're getting by them being side by side with Draken. Draken now becomes the evil, like the devil on the shoulder. So while they're in the field, there's going to be a moment, and there most likely has to be, where there's going to be a moment where and he's going to be working on Jason more than anyone else. And there's going to be a moment where he's kind of like, we should kill this villain. If we allow them to live, these are the things that's going to happen. So we need to do this. And it's going to be that whole thing of Jason kind of a push and pull. Should I do it? Should I not? I understand I have my team and I'm a leader. I'm tested as a leader. But the thing is, here goes Draken, who, essentially rallied an entire universe, a galaxy, got Rangers, turned them evil willingly, and then after that took over another galaxy or another reality. This man knows how to lead, and he does understand things as far as a tactical level and just what may be best. Now, should I listen to him at these moments? Should I not listen to him at these moments? That's what's going to happen. It's going to be that great push and pull. So I like that idea. But the thing is, I don't want Draken to overstay his welcome. I want Draken to be there for whatever they need him for. And then after that, I need Draken to go away.
All right.
Now, let's move on to the super chat, because we did get a super chat from the Blur. But before we do that, I want to officially welcome everybody to the chat, because a lot of you guys are interacting. We have great comments in there. And we have members of our team in there. Blackwing, who has joined our team on the social media side.
Nice.
So welcome to the team, the Illuminerdi team, Blackwing. The Blur is already one of our established writers. So John, obviously, thank you for joining us. And Corbin, who writes our Power Ranger comic reviews, he's also in the chat. So Corbin, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, thank all of you guys for joining us. But let's get to that super chat from the Blur. He says, did you guys like the New Dawn miniseries? Now, this is a great transition to another Power Ranger series. Jezzer, let's start with you. How did you feel about the New Dawn miniseries from Boom Studios?
I'm gonna be totally honest. It was kind of a yawn. I think mainly because I didn't follow the Coinless story arc early on. I think I jumped into the comics around when Shattered Grid happened. I think Coinless was leading up to the Shattered Grid story. I did like seeing callbacks to certain characters like Scorpina and Bulk and Skull like taking on a different role. But the storyline was just kind of like yeah, it's kind of convoluted, and it's just so much going on, and it like everybody's roles change, so like, and there's not really that much character development leading up to it, so it's just kind of like a flip, and you kind of don't know where each of them stands, what their true identities are. It was just so much packed into one story, and I think that while visually it was really cool seeing it, and seeing like there was like a sad scene where Adam gets killed, or
Yeah.
visually seeing stuff like that, it's pretty cool. I felt like it's a one-off that we didn't really need. I mean, where did you guys stand with New Dawn?
Daniel, do you want to go, or do you want me to take it?
Unfortunately, no. You can take it because the truth of the matter is, since it was a one shot, I passed it up. I kept.
Well,
playing,
it was
I'm playing
a
to beat it, and I
three.
didn't.
I believe it was a 3-issue little mini series, but
Yeah.
You didn't miss much, Daniel. Don't worry about it. So I feel a lot of the same way that Jezzer does on this series. I felt that like it wasn't necessarily needed. I also felt that like it took something away from the universe once they settled it so quickly. It was like the Coinless against Draken's what were they called? The Century. And once you put them together on a team, it kind of like the world was left without conflict. Now, there are cool things that did happen. I do like that Adam was kind of Scorpina's Century. He was a soldier. And it's kind of that's a little bit of a callback to that episode where Sabrina, who was Scorpina, and Adam had a thing. I thought that was kind of cool. I will say this, though. When they all became empowered and ended up spreading out I thought those suits looked terrible. And also, I also thought that the Unknown Ranger reveal was really sloppy. I think that was a character that was really built up very well. And for a lot of you that don't know, again, we're going to spoil this. The Unknown Ranger was Jason, and it was imprisoned by Draken. And I think that was a huge letdown. Truth be told, and this is no slight on Boom Studios, because overall I think they're doing a great job. However, I got to give a little bit of a shout out to people in our own fan community, because I think the Unknown Ranger is done a lot better in Power Rangers Unworthy, being the Arbiter Ranger. And I think there's elements taken from him who really brought that character to life. And unfortunately, I felt like that was a big letdown.
Can I touch on that? Do you guys feel like the reveal of having the Unknown Ranger kind of be Jason take away from the original Lord Draken storyline? Because I felt like that was a huge part in making a lot of fans hate Lord Draken for supposedly killing Jason, to gain the White Ranger powers, right? So I felt like I knew where they were going.
It was a cop out. It was a cop out. It was like, I agree 100% with what you're saying, Jezzer, because when you take that, you're completely right. When you take that element away from Draken, it makes Draken less fearful and less hate, and you hate him less. And I think that Draken is one of those characters where, Draken was the perfect character. If you hated Tommy, if you hated JDF, Draken is exactly what you wanted to hate against. It's what you wanted to cheer against. And I think that now when you kind of do this face turn with Draken, it's kind of like, okay, now
you know what it reminds me of, though? It reminds me a lot of, like, when like villains or anti-heroes become like a fan favorite. This kind of goes back to my other series that I really enjoy is the Fast and Furious series. Now, a lot of people hated when they turned Jason Statham and kind of like made him a good guy, in a sense, but a lot of people couldn't forgive the fact that he killed Han or whatever. That's kind of the same vibe I'm getting from this whole thing. A lot of the stuff that they're pulling from, I feel like they're pulling from other things. Like felt like when Daniel, when you watch the Flash one, they had Jay Garrett, the real Jay Garrett, like in the Iron Mask, or Man in the Iron Mask with Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio. They're pulling a lot of elements from it, but it really it feels like they're fixing, but changing a bunch of things that either Kyle Higgins did, or I don't. So if maybe there's a direction that they want to go, but with the new Draken comic book being a one-off, it doesn't really enhance the story at all.
Two things, though, before we move on, Daniel. We do have a super chat from Larry Newble. He said, it's always good seeing you guys back together again. Thank you. It's always good being back together again. And something else I want to talk about is the actual plot line, because one thing that we're glaringly leaving out is that once Draken is gone, and once Jason does what he does with the powers and the coins to give the powers pretty much, having it to give it back to his friends or whatever happens, it leaves a beacon out for space, and we get the female Ecliptor coming to Earth. And I think that's kind of cool that we get to play with some of the more popular characters from Power Rangers in space and seeing how that's played over to this new Dawn or this new coinless universe. So that is a fascinating aspect that's left dangling. With that being said, I personally, if they do something with incorporating the female Ecliptor and maybe this villainous Andros, I done with more care. I definitely hope it's done with more care because those are characters that really did save the franchise the first time around, and I want to make sure that if we revisit the coinless, it's done right. Now, the Blur in the chat has something interesting to say. He says, I think it would have been interesting if the Unknown Ranger was Billy. I actually think that would have been a better direction.
What in the Lord Draken timeline, what happened to that Billy in the coinless universe?
Yeah.
Draken killed him.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, well, I mean,
so there's a couple, like the big rumor too before this was all known was that the Unknown Ranger could have been Andros, which we now know isn't the case. I almost wish it was somebody like Matt. I think Matt would have been a good choice too, or somebody somebody that who would have been cool too if they would have done something with the character that would have been Trey of Triforia.
Ooh, yeah.
That would have been good to get them kind of. Or even the Phantom Ranger, and never revealed the Unknown Ranger's identity. So there's a lot of different things they could have done. We got another super chat, guys, from the Blur. He says, I got to say, Boom Studios is rocking with the comic series of Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers, but it seems like their graphic novels aren't doing well. And we're going to touch on the graphic novels in just a second. So I think this is a great way for us to transition out of New Dawn. Let's move on to this Power Rangers Time Force graphic novel, Sins of the Future.
Ooh.
Now, I know I'm talking a lot here, but now I want to backtrack this a little bit. Every single year, it seems like we get a new graphic novel. And the first year, it was
Soul of the Dragon.
Legend of the White Dragon.
Soul of the Dragon.
Legend of the White Dragon is JDF's other project. Soul of the Dragon was our first graphic novel we got, which I thought was phenomenal. Kyle Higgins wrote that one. It was brilliant. Then we got Psychopath, which upon rereading, I actually enjoyed a lot more. There's some problems I had with it, but upon rereading, I thought Psychopath played a lot better with the Psycho Rangers. And now this year, we get reinforcements from the future. So we'll talk about, not reinforcements from the future, sins of our future. That's the ones that we get in this graphic novel. We'll talk about that, and we'll speculate on which series you think will be 2021's trade paper or graphic novel. But let's talk about this one. Jezzer, or Daniel, let's start with you. Power Rangers Time Force, Sins of the Future. What were some of your initial thoughts about it?
Again, didn't read it. The graphic novels, I'm like, oh, okay, great, I'm gonna get into it, but I'm like delving into everything that's happening within the two major comic lines, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back, and then I never do. And I don't know if that's because of the graphic novels really don't call out to me as much. I did love Psychopath because I like that they kind of established that whole familial kind of connection with the psychopaths and Andros and his sister, and how it's like, yo, they actually are family when you think about it. But with the new stuff, it's kind of like, I'll wait until I hear someone else say something that may spark my interest, and then I'll go back and read it.
Jezzer, I think we're going to finish off with you. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to tackle this just for a quick second. So overall, I thought the story was okay. I didn't have huge issues with it. I think I like the fact that we dive in a little bit more to the mythology of Time Force, how it's created, what it's up to. I do dig that kind of stuff. However, I think that the Black Time Force Ranger reveal was a major letdown. I think that, honestly, it's kind of like watching some of these Power Rangers episodes and we get a Sixth Ranger. The only time I think that the Six Rangers really panned out and we were like, oh man, that's so cool. Or at least one of the only times I can really remember is when it was Jason was the Gold Ranger, took over for the Gold Ranger, because it was a former Ranger returning. So Tommy, we got him at the White Ranger was also pretty iconic as well. But this one felt a little forced. the fact that it's the daughter of like, or who was it? The daughter
the sister?
of sorry, that's right. The sister of Alex has all this pent up rage and goes on this rampage to me. I just felt the story was very convoluted. I wish it was thought out a little bit more. And even in the beginning, the writing kind of came off campy. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's Power Rangers. It should be campy. And to an extent, I do agree. But that's what the show's for. I think that with the comics, we're taking it a little bit more seriously, a little bit more adult. And I don't know. Some of that stuff didn't work for me. And I'll be honest with you, and this is me being 100% honest about this, I found Sins of the Future to be a little boring. That's my personal opinion. Jezzer, how about you?
I'm gonna have to agree with you. It's the story was when comparing it to Soul of the Dragon. There's a lot to pack in. Expanded the universe a little bit by incorporating like the SPD side and like Sky's new role and stuff. I felt like this one, it had so much potential to tap into a lot of the Power Ranger universe being time travel and all that. And I'm seeing a lot more. We keep going back to it. But I'm seeing a lot more like great character development when it comes to Power Rangers Unworthy with the time travel aspect and their Chrono Ranger or whatever they have. I felt like what the fans are bringing to the table as far as like storytelling is it should be a good sign to the writers, like, maybe emphasize on this more, maybe try to pinpoint on what people want to actually see. Now, everybody loves Time Force. I personally think out of all the series, like a lot of people like hail Time Force as one of the great series of Power Rangers. Yeah, it's good, but I think it's a little overrated. The story, like if you really just go into it, the story's just kind of blah. But one thing that I do enjoy about the Sins of the Future is that they emphasize a lot of how powerful and how great of a leader Erin Cale's character Jen is. We saw a lot of that in Shattered Grid, and the choice of having her travel between dimensions and kind of bring everybody together was great. And like I think Sins of the Future had a lot of potential in expanding that story, but the fact that I feel like when you tie a character to, like, when you try to introduce like a love story into it, it kind of like lowers the quality of it. Like you're tied to that whole situation, and I think that they could have done a better job with it.
We got some great comments in here from Blackwing. He said, let's start with Robert Amaya. Says he would love to see Mighty Morphin team up with Dino Thunder in the comics. It would be kind of like Extreme Ghostbusters. Blackwing, this is a great comment, says Alex's sister, which I had no idea because I dislike Alex, and why give him a sister? Couldn't agree more. Blur asks, agree or disagree? Should Time Force be the next team for a comic series? Blackwing says with the right writer, he agrees. Guys, should Time Force be the next comic series if Boom was to expand Power Rangers?
I say give it some time. We just started playing with the whole interdimensional thing, and with that, we are also playing with time. Let's wait a little bit and let's focus on characters that have something that's already set and established, and they're kind of anchored where they are. And let's build with them. And then, if we want to, we'll go ahead and address something with time. Because immediately, once we get into time, then we'll start doing a lot of course correction, which means we're going to go back and address things that we've already dealt with. So let's not do that too quickly.
Yeah, one of the cool things that was introduced in this series was Hyperforce. So not in this series, but in this graphic novel was Hyperforce. It was the introduction of Hyperforce. We got to see their logo in it, and we know that they were prepping Jen to be an instructor for Hyperforce, which I thought was cool. It tied into Hyperforce. But speaking of the next series, I actually think Hyperforce would be a great series. And the reason why, I think it could be their comic version of Legends of Tomorrow, where they can go back and kind of fix continuity within the series itself. And that team would be the perfect team to do it, because we only technically have one season from it, and it's done in an RPG format. If the second season of RPG happens in comic format and make it a mini-series to kind of cross-correct everything that continuity-wise in Power Rangers doesn't quite match up, this is the perfect way to do it. So I would really like to see some care taken into a Hyperforce comic series.
That's a good point. Like Hyperforce could be like, oh, the best of all worlds. You know, you can get all these iconic stories that we love, and which is kind of what was the best part about Hyperforce. I think my least favorite part about Hyperforce was the length of the series and the format that it had. But I think in a comic book series, I think that'd be perfect. Like you said, like a Legends of Tomorrow, touching on iconic scenes and moments in the Power Ranger universe would be the perfect place to start a new comic line, because you can introduce so many different characters and touch on so many different characters, and I think that'd be really amazing.
Now let's talk about the graphic novel, the yearly graphic novel we get from Power Rangers. Now, obviously, JDF's character Tommy is one of the most popular characters in franchise history. That's well known. That was an easy choice for that first graphic novel. Power Rangers in Space is one of the most beloved seasons of all time. The Psycho Rangers might be the best-looking villains we've ever gotten. So I guess that makes sense for the second graphic novel. And the third one was Time Force, also regarded by fans as one of the most successful seasons in terms of storytelling. So I can understand why that was the third choice. Now, guys, for next year, if Boom and Power Rangers continue their relationship, what do you think that fourth choice is going to be for the trade paperback? It seems like the trend is to go with the most popular iterations of the franchise. Daniel, let's start with you. What would you want to see as that next trade or the next graphic novel that Boom dives into with Power Rangers?
Honestly, for me, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are out there, but I think a team that really needs to have like a lot addressed and brought back would be Megaforce.
Ooh, interesting.
Because the thing is, I feel that there's so much that people, being honest, people shit on Megaforce. And the thing is, with what they were able to do as far as like being an anniversary season without being an anniversary season, all the things that they were able to do, I feel that Ryan and the writing team would be able to justify them, give them meaning, and actually kind of flesh them out for something that would be really good. Yeah. And I think they deserve that. I really do. I think they deserve their second chance to kind of be revered, because they should get that. I feel that should be the kind of point when it comes to the graphic novels. Let's go back and look at seasons that everyone shits on, and let's make them dope. Yeah. And then after that, now that that's happened, maybe people will want to see more of it. So
great choice, Daniel.
For me, I would probably go. I would like to see more of what happens towards the end of RPM and leading into Beast Morphers. I think that maybe a story like following Venjik's storyline and the rise of Grid Battle Force would be amazing to see. I mean, like Grid Battle Force, how did they come to get all of these morphers and all of these Power Ranger stuff in their little vault? Like, how did that all come to be? And how did what happened with Venjix? Like, how did he cross dimensions? All that. I think a Dr. K storyline would be amazing. Going back to RPM, which is another big fan favorite, would be amazing for them. Just the in between, kind of like the prequel series for Star Wars. The in between. Between stories, like how do we get from here to there? I think that'd be amazing.
1,000%, I agree with Jezzer. I think personally, it's also going to be RPM, and the reason why, like Jezzer stated it and what he said, is that it is one of the most popular iterations of the franchise, and if that continues the trend just alone, that would be a great storyline. I hope that they adapt what Jezzer had just said, because I think that makes the most sense, especially coming off of the Beast Morpher season, which is a pretty strong season. I think that would be really interesting. Another one that I think shouldn't go overlooked, and I think it could possibly actually happen, is we had Soul of the Dragon, but what if we had one about Jason, about his in between time from Forever Red, which is the last time we saw him, and his appearance on Beast Morphers. I think that could be interesting too, like an older Jason. In that same timeline of when Tommy was in Soul of the Dragon, because this is like last year, or at least leading up, Beast Morphers very much did seem like the year of Jason, or the season of Jason, even though he was only in it very little. but it did seem like there was a lot of hype behind that, and I can easily see that being a natural next choice for what they want to do with the graphic novels. Let's go to some of your choices in the chat, because I think you guys have some great ones in here. Noah Cummings says he wants to see Dino Thunder or Dino Charge. Great choice. Also, SPD, which I think is another great choice, because we do know about what Jason Bischoff was promoting a little bit on his Twitter account about the Fire Squad, the SPD Fire Squad, which would bring Jack back, along with a few other Red Rangers, or the Decker Ranger. What Decker Ranger is introduced to us, we haven't gotten a storyline there, so that would be a great choice. Thomas Franco says Dino Thunder. The Blur agrees. Megaforce and Super Megaforce need the comic touch. Robert Amaya wants to see Lost Galaxy or Dino Thunder. The Blur also asks, how about Operation Overdrive? And Robert Amaya says maybe Ninja Steel should get a second chance. So there's a lot of great stories there. Another one too was, what if they did a Zeo reunion about all the characters from Zeo, since they never lost their power, having to do like a Zeo reunion in comic book form, which would be kind of cool also. So there's a lot of different ideas. Now let's move on a little bit, because I believe that the next one we have to touch upon is Mighty Morphin, right? And then I think we're wrapped
Mighty
up.
Morphin. Like, do you guys know the reason why the whole rebranding and the whole renumbering? What?
Yeah, so I was actually going to touch on this a little bit later, but I can do this now. I think personally, and this is my personal speculation, but it just seems too good to pass up. Again, this isn't, I know that we're known for breaking news, but read between the lines, I would say. We all know that it seems like everything lines up for 2021 for a lot of deals from the Saban era to expire. 2021 would be next year, obviously, and it seems like there's a licensing negotiation that I'm sure needs to happen. But let's put the cards on the table and figure this out. Number one, IDW is mostly where Hasbro has their comic book properties. G.I. Joe, Max. It's all at IDW. My Little Pony is also all at IDW. Yeah. So there could be a little leveraging here for Boom to keep it. And the reason I say that is because look at what they're doing in the comics. They bring back a Green Ranger. The Green Ranger is historically known as being the most popular Ranger, and usually you need a little bit of a boost when you need a Green Ranger to come in. We have a new Green Ranger, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we also see the return of Lord Draken, probably the most popular character ever created in Power Ranger comics. I find it fascinating that we also get new number ones, because usually if you take a page out of Marvel's playbook, every storyline, it seems like they do a new number one.
That's right.
Reboot, because number ones sell more. And it seems like Boom is doing a push to sell more comics with this new relaunch of number ones, of the Green Ranger's return and Lord Draken's return. It gives fans a fresh new take on Power Rangers. And it seems like it's a leveraging tool for
keep the license,
for them not to go over to IDW, which they could easily do. So personally, Jezzer, long story short, to answer your question, I think it's mainly because it's a negotiating tactic to keep the license under Boom Studios.
Yeah, I mean, and this comic book series, like I'm not hating on it. I just thought that. I mean, pretty much there's no change within the storyline. It's just continuing on the Power Rangers and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers storyline, but changing the titles like Mighty Morphin and then Power Rangers. We got another super chat from the Blur. He says, I think the new identity to a classic hero is a selling boost. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, but look at Daredevil and its latest issue selling out. Yeah, so I mean that.
True. I mean that's completely right. I mean there's nothing wrong with that statement whatsoever. But let's talk about Mighty Morphin a little bit. Now we have the team of 6 with Tommy in control leading as the White Ranger. Aisha, Rocky, and Adam have joined the team. Billy and Kimberly are still there, and we get the introduction of a new 6th Ranger, which is the Green Ranger, that helps them in battle from time to time. But it's very much that feel of Power Ranger Zeo, where you don't necessarily know who the Green Ranger is, just like they did with the Gold Ranger. Now, there's some breadcrumbs that are left in the storyline with Billy going to Grace Sterling and working on a special project. Now, the Green Ranger is kept captive underneath the command center, but Lord Draken is kept captive underneath the command center, but when the Green Ranger appears, for some reason, the cameras go out with Lord Draken's cell, so there's a lot of speculation that the Green Ranger was Lord Draken. Now, I don't know if it's accidentally or intentionally. The Green Ranger's identity has been revealed by Bleeding Cool. That was embargoed, actually. And personally, I don't want to say who it is. I do know who it is, but I don't want to say here because I don't want to ruin that for anybody that hasn't read it. But let's pretend that we don't know. Who are some good candidates for the Green Ranger? And yes, again, if you want to find out who it is revealed. It's out there right now. But I think it kind of takes a little the fun out of it if you're reading the story and you want that surprise element to it.
Exactly. So playing on that kind of idea, not knowing, they are dropping, like you said, breadcrumbs, and it becomes that question of, well, is it Draken? Because, like you said, the cameras did go out. What's happening here? But they can't be in two places at once. We have a moment where he removes his helmet, but we still don't see who he is. And then you're just kind of like, well, okay. So he's there in front of people. He removes the helmet, and we know that at that kind of point, it doesn't seem to be Draken. But you're like, well, then who else could it be? And it's kind of like heavy-handed, where it feels like they keep bringing us back to Matt. Mm-hmm. And yeah. I'm just like, okay, so, but what we have learned from Ryan is that, I remember we had an interview with him, and he said one thing that he definitely hated was when they were giving us all these new characters showing up and kind of like giving us red herrings and saying, oh, hey, here's this guy. This new guy is a tech guy, and he wears blue all the time. Here's this other guy. He's wearing black all the time. And then they did nothing with these characters. And they weren't Rangers at all. And he said he hated that because it's like, come on, why would you goad us in that way? And here he is giving us Matt showing up again. So I'm wondering if he's kind of playing with us and doing that whole push and pull just to say, well, you know, I hate it, but it is what happens in Power Rangers. So let me do it too. And then ultimately, maybe it's not Matt at all, you know? So it's like, so
there's
I like that idea.
Which I thought would be cool. Obviously, Matt is one of them because Matt has been such a driving force, even with that Kyle Higgins run. The seeds were planted early with Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott with the shattered grid stuff, with Matt finding out the Rangers' identities and him being like, listen, I know, just admit it to me or I'm not. Yeah, there's some cool stuff that they did with Matt. But another option, which I thought would have been super cool and outside the box, is that we finally get the reveal of who Candace is. Now, for a lot of you guys that don't know who Candace is, she's Skull's girlfriend, but she's, I believe, a shapeshifter or
Eltarian.
No, she's an Eltarian.
And I thought, how cool would that have been if this Eltarian came back and assumed the role of the Green Ranger, which I thought would have been super cool. But look, and Ryan Parrott I trust, because I think Ryan has done a phenomenal job with the book, and I like this Omega Ranger run. And like Jezzer said, I feel it is stronger than this Mighty Morphin run, and this is all attributed to Ryan and some of the seeds planted early on. And I think that would be, I think that's a great idea, and I like that we're opening up the universe a bit. And I think that's the important thing and the important takeaway, that the show and the franchise has done a good job of building this universe. But the comics are kicking it into high gear. Yeah. So I'm all on board with what Ryan's doing in the book.
I really enjoy what they're doing with this character. Like, it could have been an easy cop-out for them to, make the identity a certain person, but, laying the seeds early on really plays out well. Honestly, I'm really excited to read issue number 2, which comes out next week, December 9th. So finally gonna get the reveal. Finally gonna get to see a little bit of the new what is person from Eltarian or new
Eltarian.
Yeah. So I feel like I enjoy hearing stories about Zordon and his past, and that
So do I.
And one thing that we touched on, like the whole reason why the Green Ranger kind of had to come into play, is when the introduction of Zed's new Dark Rangers, and I think that was a cool story and a cool. I mean, it was really quick, but visually, the look of these new characters was amazing, and you get to see a little bit more character development for those henchmen that don't really get a lot of play within the series or the show. So I thought that was really cool. A good catalyst to bringing in another Ranger. I do want to see more crossover crossover comic books with not just the 7 Mighty Morphin Rangers, but I also want to see them bring back Jason, Trainee, and Zach, because that'd be it's just really fun to see the dynamic that they have, especially there's definitely a divide. So I don't know if they're leaning towards like a Power Rangers Civil War going on, now that they have Draken on their side.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to
Yeah.
be something, because here go the Omega Rangers breaking in to break out
Draken.
Draken. I think it's going to be that way. You saw how upset Zordon was and disappointed in Jason and the team, and Jason saying this is something that needs to be done. It's quote unquote a necessary
Yep.
evil. Wink, wink. So with that being the case, I think Zordon is going to be like, okay, Omega Rangers were my wet works team. They were the team I'd send out to do things that I knew my Rangers couldn't do, and now all of a sudden they're doing things almost on their own.
They're more
becoming
the emissary is the one that kind of like put that into play.
Exactly.
So I mean, now that he's out of the
So
picture, they're kind of like running amok on their own.
Yeah, they're autonomous. They're doing things on their own, and with that, Zordon has to be upset. Where it's like, I can't put my thumb on them and tell them what to do because they don't have to listen to me. So I think he's gonna end up having to send the Rangers out to kind of stop the Omega Rangers, and that would be interesting. A whole Ranger Civil War. That would be dope. Also, I got to point out that when Grace was trying to go over candidates for who she was going to pick as the Green Ranger, how she did mention the VR Troopers.
Yes, she mentioned Ryan Steele specifically.
Yes, that's right. But if you saw on the screen, they had the other ones there too, and I was like, "Yo!" So they exist,
Ooh.
in this kind of like world. So that's cool, and I like that. So maybe we'll see something build later in. Maybe they'll do a little VR Troopers or freaking Beetleborgs. Who knows?
Well, this is where it gets a little bit more fascinating, because I think that with that inclusion, that small little brief inclusion of having Ryan Steele in it, there was always that, not even rumor, it was going to be a fact that Brad Hawkins was possibly going to be the Gold Ranger. So I think that's so fascinating that, okay, what if we tied in that Gold Ranger was going to be Ryan Steele, because it really does tie in that whole cross-world city and everything else that was going on in VR Troopers. So I think that would have been a cool idea too. I really, really like where that's going. Now, technically, in terms of Civil War, we've already gotten that, though, a little bit with these two teams in that last run leading up to the split between Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. So I don't know if we need it full-blown again, because I felt like we already got that. And it seems like everything's like kind of fine. I guess we can get it on a bigger level, but it seems I don't want to see these two teams cross again for a while, because I felt like we've gotten that, you know what I mean? And if they do cross again, I want it to make sense. Like I hate when they just throw people in together just to do it. I think that kind of like takes away from it a little bit. But I would love to see, honestly, like if the Omega Rangers did land on Triforia and Jason did meet Trey ahead of time. And maybe that's why he was like, when Tommy brought back Jason to have the Gold Ranger powers, Trey already knew who he was a little bit. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So there's fun little things that they could play with here if they open up the playbook for the Power Ranger franchise a little bit. But I think it could be a lot of fun. But look, I know.
Before we say anything else, we still have Putty Rita just somewhere floating around. And that's something where I was like, when what's her name revealed herself to be what is Zordon's people?
Eltarian.
Yeah. Well, she showed to be Eltari. I really thought it was going to be Putty Rita, and that Putty Rita was working with someone. But then when that happened, now I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so where is Putty Rita? Because it's going to be something that comes back and it's going to bite them in the egg. So I'm wondering, when is that going to happen? Because it's just a dangling plot thread, and Ryan doesn't like to leave dangling plot threads.
Definitely.
So,
but I think that's
just something.
I think that's a good place to sign off. But we do have the rest of our team coming in at you with the Retro Ranger wrap up at, I think, 1:15. So you guys gotta tune in. You guys, thank you so much for joining. Like it's nice having all of us together and talking about Power Rangers.
Huh? I want to, before we go, I want to also say that in 2021, there's going to be a lot more programming headed your way. Jezzer, myself, and a few others are going to sit down and see what you guys like and go for it. Again, to join our team is not difficult. Blackwing is a member of our team now. He's going to be doing social media for us. So we're looking for contributors, whether you want to do social media, whether you want to write for us. I mean, we're looking for everything. So if you want to join the Illuminerdi, the door is always open. Hit us up at media@theilluminerdi.com, and you can get in touch with one of us and we'll figure it out. Or DM one of us, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram, whatever it may be. We can point you in the right direction. So thank you for joining us. Also, I know Daniel had mentioned his birthday earlier on. It's coming up December 18th, which ironically enough is the first. It's officially our 1-year anniversary.
Yep.
The Illuminerdi. So
Yep.
I know that I don't know if you guys know about this yet, but we're doing a virtual Illuminerdi Christmas party, which is also going to be our anniversary, and we might live stream it. So every member of our team that can join it is going to be joining that, and we're going to be watching Wonder Woman 84 together.
Oh,
So that's something to do. But yeah, so if you guys want to join us, let us know. We're happy to point you in the right direction. And again, we have some great content coming up. In just about 15 minutes, the Retro Ranger team, Josh, L, and Corey are going to be back talking Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. So stay tuned for that. Where can everybody find you guys on social media?
You can find me usually on Instagram at Battlestar Galactica. If you want to, I'm trying to be active on Twitter, so you can look me up there under Enlightened BSG.
Nice. You can find me on all social media at Jezzer Zeus. Joe?
You can find me at Joe Luminerdi on all social media. I'm active on Twitter, and I'm starting to get more active on Instagram. But check us all out individually. Check us out at theilluminerdi.com and the Illuminerdi all social media. We don't just do Power Rangers. It's a fraction of what we do, but we have big stories dropping all week long. So next week, I'll tease a little bit. If you're a DC fan, specifically if you're a fan of James Gunn's Suicide Squad, tune in next week. We have some information coming up on some Suicide Squad info coming up for the DC Universe. But check us out, Illuminerdi.com. Yesterday, we just dropped some news. If you're a Dexter fan or a Game of Thrones fan, there was news there that dropped, and we have more news coming your way. So thank you so much for joining us each and every week. We love doing this show, and we'll be back next week talking more Power Rangers. But thank you for joining us on the Ranger Wrap-Up. And just remember, guys, we are the Illuminerdi, and we are always watching.